talk. Good talk.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to MVP Office Hours. We had a week off. I hope you had a nice U.S. Labor Day holiday if you were able to participate. We are, as a reminder, on an off-week schedule for the rest of September. So we'll be today and the 22nd, back on track in October. Raise your hand if you're going to Dreamforce next week. I know a lot of us are going to be busy with that. If you're not going, are you planning to watch anything on the Plus? Because I think there'll be lots of good content there if you're not. So. All right, let's kick it off. As always, Joy and Dale and myself are available on LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn handles there are listed at the top. We still have an X/Twitter channel in MVP Office Hours, but we're not paying as much attention there, just like most people aren't. Feel free to use that if you need to, but always remember, success is your best friend. If you got questions, you need to contact us. If you need to reach out to anyone on the call from start to finish, that's your place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Next one's on the 22nd. Like we said, registration is still through the same bit.ly. We're seeing the same faces, so I'm preaching to the choir, I think. But I will mention our attendance has gone down a little bit over the course of 2023. Feel free to let your friends and compatriots know. I mean, this is obviously an open forum for anybody that wants to be part of the learning and the sharing. So feel free to be our voices in the public. We have, as always, we want everyone to share what they've got. Insights, recommendations, whatever. If you have a question, raise your hand and put it in the chat. We'll get to you as soon as possible. Feel free to post all your links, all your references, any documentation, responses to the questions. The chat is all there for us. And remember, as always, this is the internet. We're recording it. So that means it's forever and ever and ever. So let's stay positive. Let's stay compassionate, and make sure that if you're sharing something, that it's something you can share forever and ever and ever. Preferably a sandbox, preferably obfuscated data if it can be, but feel free to share if it helps with your questions.
So I've thought, let's just pause really quick on the, attendance has kind of declined a little bit. Holidays are coming up. There's always that relative that asks, what is it that you do? Invite them to this call and maybe they'll get some of that answered. And then you don't have to talk about it at Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Or you can share the links with them to like our YouTube channel, right? Yeah, but I'd love to see, I would love to see non-Salesforcey people here.
They'd all be shaking their heads. All right, coming up, obviously Dreamforce is next week. There's a lot of Asian, European sessions coming up. Our attendance tends to be US, so I focused on those. Northeast Dreamin', Florida Dreamin', Mar Dreamin', which is the marketing Dreamin' session. It's going to be virtual only. And nonprofit dreaming in Chicago. Those are the next 4 big ones in the continental US. Anybody know of anything else that might have been missed that we should be calling out?
Dreamin', where we all go to our own bedrooms, go to sleep, and dream about Salesforce.
Ugh. Okay, cool. I don't want to dream about Dreamforce. Salesforce. I want to dream about I don't know, winning the Super Bowl or something. That would be cool, right? Oh, sorry, add someone in here. All right. Why don't we go ahead and jump right into the questions of the day? So Todd, I don't see Todd. Nope. So I think it's a pretty straightforward question. Why don't we go ahead and give it our best shot? And if he wants to watch it later, he can. So he had a standard report type show up after he created a custom object. Opportunities with custom object called purchase agreements. And it was missing some fields. So then he did some digging and he found a custom report type that was the same structure. And it appears to have the field, but he can't find the report type. So we had several questions about, is there a way to get the missing field into the standard report type? And then ideas, if you can't find a custom report type that you're expecting to be able to find, what can you do to try to sneak up on it? So apropos of not the question asker on the call, what do we got?
I think it was determined that when he was going into reports, he wasn't clicking the all reports. He was just looking at recently.
Yeah, because it defaults to
Yeah.
recent.
Mhm.
Got
It gets you. I still make that mistake.
it.
Worst
In that-
feature ever.
in
Yeah.
the the analytics portal or whatever they're calling it now, right? Like it's just he wasn't sneaking up on it.
Well, not even in the analytics portal. I mean, if you do create a new report and you go to that screen pops up, it just shows you like your most recent report types.
Got it. All right.
And I mean, you see that across all list views, recent, because I mean, chances are you're navigating back to what you just did. I don't know that in reporting it totally makes sense to land on recent. I get
Yeah.
it, but it doesn't make sense.
I know, me too. In our community, we have reports available to our customers, and it does the same thing. Like customers are like, well, no reports show up, and it's because they haven't had a recent. So
I get it with reports. It's report types that it doesn't make
Mhm.
sense, like the
Yeah.
actual building of it.
Right. But I
Yeah.
think the problem kind of lingers into other areas too.
Mhm.
All right.
But yeah, it sounds like that was it for Todd. So
And remind me the adding, you can't modify a standard report type, but does something automatically add a field to that standard report type? Is there something about the creation that adds it?
There's a checkbox option when you create the field to add it to all.
I
report.
thought that was only for custom report types. I thought for standard, it automatically adds fields.
Oh, you may be correct.
Absolutely correct.
Well, but he was saying he wasn't seeing his field, so what does that mean?
He might have created the field in a sandbox and not updated the report type, like when he did the change set, or if he migrated it up a DevOps pipeline.
Will, that's a good call.
all right, so I'm looking at the post right now. Let's make sure we reset, got all our I's dotted and T's crossed. Trying to write a new report using opportunities and a custom object called purchase agreements. Salesforce appears to have created a standard report type, opportunities with purchase agreements, which would have natively happened through creating the object relationship, but it does not contain one of the custom fields I need. I then found a custom report type, opportunities and purchase agreements, but it is not visible when I create a new report. And I think that's where his question was answered by it not being in recent. But now, two questions. Is there any way to get the missing field into the standard report type? So this whole thing is really two questions. Why would it not be visible? And what about the fields? Why would it not be visible? Because you haven't run it yet to show up in your recent queue.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way to
Or
get the
field
missing
level
field in standard
security.
report? What?
Or he just doesn't have field level security to the field.
I'm
If
guessing
you don't have access to
Todd-
the field.
I'm guessing Todd probably has full FLS. Knowing how he operates as an admin, I'm guessing he has full FL. Like he has FLS on the field. Like,
So
Yeah, I
one
love that we know that.
thing that is not mentioned but could be a thing that I've had happen is if this is a managed package object, if it is a managed package object and it's a custom report type, but it's like a packaged report type, when you create a field in that org itself, it will automatically add it to the managed report type. However, if you move that field into a different org through like Capado or any other tool, it doesn't actually put that field into the report type. So when you make the field in the UI, it'll go into a managed report type, but you can't do it you can't get it in any other way in the managed report type. And if they update the managed report type in a package update, it will get rid of it being in there.
Yeah, revert it.
That's a high possibility. It's like a weird bug that it lets it happen, but like I don't want to complain to Salesforce because it does help me kind of.
I hear you. I'm guessing he would have probably called out if this was a managed package. I'm thinking this is probably just a straight up custom object. The answer to, is there any way to get the missing field into the standard report type?
So
Covered that.
that's close to what I was thinking also, that even if this is a custom object, custom field that he created in a sandbox, Depending on how he brought it across, I don't know if the report type would get updated. Unless he did that specifically. So it could be like if he like moved that field, right? And he expected to see it in production and it's not there, that could be why. So he might need to go back to that report type in production and look for that field to be added to the custom report type. Because we don't know if this was deployed and then pushed, or if it was deployed in production. I want to talk to Todd. So
yeah, I think that's fair. I think we've got a lot of good answers and a lot of questions that go with those answers. I think that's smart. Okay.
Yeah. Ooh. Lizelle's here.
Yep. Lizelle, it's all yours. Do you, we can read it back to you, or if you want to give us a rundown of where you're at on this one?
I can just go ahead and show you, but basically, I've come to learn that making it easy for people to do things is one thing, but for them to actually enforce it is the way to go. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure this out because I was already happy building out this flow. And now I got word that, hey, we should make this mandatory. And I guess I need to make file attachments mandatory on a record in order, so I don't, oh gosh, I should have just had you guys do a recap. To force a file, basically, when they go through this whole screen flow is my ask. Like, how do I do that?
So like a file must be attached to complete your submission.
Yes. Like, and then
That's
if
easy.
they don't attach a file, then it just rolls them back to say, hey, you got to go ahead and attach a file.
Don't forget to attach that file that is actually like a picture of your grandma or whatever.
You can do this easily with the decision element. All you have to do is put a decision after your screen, because it's when you do the file upload on the screen component, it saves that into an output variable with the IDs. Just check if that output variable is empty. If it's empty, send them back to the screen, and then also put like a conditional display text on the screen that says like, hey, upload it, and only show that when they visited the path on the decision that says there was missing the file. I've done it before and it works.
I don't know if you responded to my question, and I just decision elements. I was like, oh, I don't even know. And then I just got confused.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, thank you. So can you walk? So this is literally what I do, decision?
Yeah, just add a decision.
Okay.
So before you start there, maybe we should pause. Like, are you familiar with what the decision element is going to do for you? Like, are you familiar with that component of a flow?
I like to say it's a question. If it's yes, then it goes through this flow. If the answer, that isn't the response, then you go through the next series of events.
That's a good way to think of it. Okay. Maybe the better way to describe it is it's an if statement, but it's a component, right? So you can have multiple checks and it works its way through just like you would with an if statement, if X, if Y, if Z. So I just wanted to make sure before we jumped into it, if you were comfortable with it.
Okay, thank you. So we do this. Okay. Okay, that's what. Okay, so I went through this and I'm like, ID.
So in there, look for the attachment, the screen component for the file upload. Scroll down in the list, probably.
That would be in my resource or.
Under the resource picker, there should be one that says like file upload. I can't see it when you're sharing like that.
Yep.
Oh.
But yeah. Okay. So scroll down. So
this would be it, right?
Upload files. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then do like the, it could be like content version IDs.
Ooh, okay.
And then just check if that's null. You might have to do like, is null true or equals blank. I don't know if it's actually a physical what it leaves it in. Off that one, but I think it's probably operator is null.
So the thing to the left.
The
is-
operator on the left.
Oh, oops.
That's what
Okay.
I'd try first. Is null and then just true. Or no, is null false because it's the.
I want the opposite.
I think this should work. I'm not at my computer though, so gotta check into this hotel.
So, yep, so then now the decision, so Andrew, we can go from here if you're checking in, so. Now you're basically saying if there is an attachment, just continue down the path. And if there is an attachment, go back to the file upload screen, or maybe you have to have another one that says, hey, it doesn't look like you attached the file, you need to do that, right? So you can, it depends on what your user experience needs to be, but then you're gonna redirect if it didn't get loaded, or continue on if it was loaded.
Okay, so let me just go ahead and add something if it's a no, and then I can fix it, I guess, is how I test. So if a file wasn't attached, then it should
In the most generic way, it should just take you back to the screen that says attach a file. But from a user's experience, they might not know why they got redirected. So maybe you want to have a secondary screen or a different pop-up or a message or something that says, hey, you didn't attach anything, I'm going to send you back, right? Or just because sometimes people just keep clicking next, not knowing why it's sending them back. Raise your hand if you've got a user who doesn't read error messages.
Gotcha. Okay.
Jack. The frowny face was the best part of that hand raise, by the way.
I think. Thank you. No, I think this. Okay, so it'll just loop. Okay, sorry, I'm just mentally envisioning this. No, it's still thinking.
If it makes you feel any better, the number of internet issues that I've had to like watch coworkers go through in the last week has been astronomical.
Oh.
And don't forget too, you can always debug this in the flow builder if you don't want to leave and keep coming back and activating and deactivating. If you've got all your IDs, you can just do it from the debugger.
Oh, okay. I'm still okay.
Especially with a complex flow, if you can get comfortable using that rather than saving and jumping out and jumping back in, you'll save yourself a ton of clicks.
That sounds good. Okay, so I think I haven't. Okay, well, it didn't work as anticipated or envisioned. So I basically tweak this.
Yeah, so see how both of your branches are going right back to the same spot? You need to have the branches doing two different things now, right?
Oh gosh, silly me. Okay, okay, I will work on this offline, at least for the life. At least this whole element thing was throwing me off because I thought I had to create a new variable of some sort. So this was a huge win for me already. So thank you.
You bet. Group help.
We've got Rochelle teed up.
And there was one. Was there something else in the box too? I feel like. I mean, I know we've got multiples, right?
Yeah, Andrea was actually first. She said that she had mentioned us during her Midwest Dreaming presentation. So thank you. And it's going to be, we all are going to be mentioned again in her Northeast Dreaming presentation coming up. So that's super exciting. We appreciate that. But then Rochelle's next. So unless we had something else in the.
Yeah, so John was up if he joined.
John,
and I think John's is going to be a longer topic. So I just want to make sure we give a chance to talk to everybody. So.
Oh, yeah, John's is a biggie. Rochelle, do you want to knock yours out maybe quickly?
Sure, no problem. Actually, let me put my.
I can read this back to everyone if you want.
No, that's fine. No problem. I can do it. Basically, our company is management wants salespeople to go out and visit customers again, just like pre-COVID. And before that, they never had any sort of way of tracking how many face-to-face meetings that they have with customers, as well as, Zoom calls, Teams, that kind of thing. I've been tasked to report on the activities of salespeople in Salesforce. And as you can imagine, the conversation has been not exactly pleasant. A lot of salespeople are really upset about having to be asked to put in information in Salesforce. Again, this company barely used Salesforce. So the idea that, how could they ask me what meetings I have? And I'm like, well, it's just a couple clicks to do this.
To justify the time they're spending away from the office with customers. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, part of my angst about this whole project has been the reception I've gotten from the salespeople. And the other part of it is the fact that I learned that a lot of salespeople are being invited to meetings. So they're obviously not the organizers. They're being invited to a Teams call or a Zoom call and that kind of thing. So what ends up happening is when I run reports to show activities, they're not related to anything. Obviously, if they're accepting a Zoom call and there's just an attendee, that Zoom call isn't tied or related to anything. And many of the fields that are required in my reporting for meetings are left blank. And because they're not the owner they're not the organizer, they don't have access to those fields. Does that sound right? Okay.
How are you logging the Zoom calls now?
Currently, they are been told to record their meetings with customers as events, and then they have a drop down what type of a meeting, and it's supposed to be like a video conference. So it'll say video conference, but literally it's not related or tied to any sort of object in Salesforce.
Like
It's
they're
just-
not relating it back to the contact, like the main contact at the account, or even the account that they're talking to.
Exactly, because they are not the organizers of the meeting. So when they accept the meeting and the meeting goes from Outlook to Salesforce, they can't just simply go into the field and make those changes.
So I want to take a step back and ask, when you say that as these are getting created, and you kind of just shed some light on it, but certain fields are required.
Yes.
Where and how are they required? Is it on the page layout, or is it through validation rule, or what mechanism?
It's on the page layout.
So page layout is only going to enforce the requirement if you are actually interacting with the page. If Outlook is creating the event for you, Outlook does not care about the page layout.
Exactly.
So I just want to make sure that that's not a potential easy miss on it, or easy piece of the puzzle, but okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that what I've been doing is that I've been asking the salespeople, okay, so you are being asked to go to meetings that your customer has set up on their Zoom and Teams and that kind of thing. And once you accept it in Outlook, to go into Salesforce in the calendar, click on the actual, the event, and I've been asking if they can click and relate it by using the dropdown. And unfortunately, after I log in as them, I find out that you can't do that because it says you are not the organizer.
Is this the native Salesforce event?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And what are you using to sync? What tooling?
Salesforce for Outlook?
Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, there's a lot of tools in the ecosystem, so I want to make
Yeah,
sure. So,
yeah, just Salesforce for Outlook.
And sorry, you might have already said it, but in Outlook itself, all of the information you need is there and present for a meeting, like the Zoom link, all that stuff is there.
The Zoom link, yes, and that's also something that's also something I brought to Salesforce, and they basically said, deal with it. when a customer, like you and I, when we send each other a meeting, you go into description and you write down this is a meeting about XYZ.
Mhm.
Well, the Zoom link or the Teams link or whatever, Google Meet, that huge pile of text gets dumped into the description, or what they call on the reports is full comments.
Yep.
So the information that I want to keep really on this meeting, what the purpose of the meeting is, pretty much lost with all this crap that comes in on the meeting request. So what I've done is I created 2 new text fields on the for the meeting. One is called meeting agenda and the other one's meeting outcome, that the salespeople can just put in, jot down, hopefully what the purpose in the meeting and what was the outcome. However, I did reach out to Salesforce to ask them, isn't there any place else that you guys could dump that Teams meeting IDs, all that stuff in? And they were like, basically say no, it's not even in the works. But my biggest issue is the fact that, asking salespeople to do something, and then they get this red error that they can't relate customer requested meetings and things like that is causing me a lot of issues, as well as the fact that the reports to management look terrible because they're just blanks. Does anybody on this call have any sort of suggestion? Because I did reach out, I did write this up on in the community, and I'm sure this person wrote me this very nice message about what I should do if I was a little bit more talented.
So I'm going backwards further in this thing.
Okay.
So your sales folks are being invited to meetings, so they're not driving the conversations.
Yes.
Is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And so from my perspective, having spent some time with some different sales teams, that seems to be like the crux of the problem, is they aren't driving the conversation.
Exactly. And that was something that was a real eye opener, because when I did sales, I made the call and I invited them to my meeting. Yes.
Well,
and so that, but different industries, different things, and that's fine. And that's absolutely fine. Like, if you need to be invited into like a secured space by a potential customer with their tools, that makes sense. But that was one of my first questions. I was like, so they're not driving the conversation, they're not driving the cadence of the meetings. But I'm kind of stuck, and I'm Googling and I'm not finding what I want.
Yeah.
So I mean, a couple.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, so I saw Jack shared a link to Calendar Anything, which I haven't worked with directly, but I think somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but one issue to resolve is I thought Salesforce for Outlook was either no longer supported or full on retired. So that might be part of why Salesforce isn't giving you any support on it.
The date's coming. It's not fully unsupported, but I think they moved it to June 24 is now the current date on it. But yeah, it's going away soon. Yeah.
Really quick.
Okay.
And Calendar Anything, for what it's worth, my firm switched to it maybe a year plus, more than that, 2 years ago already. And I know Salesforce has made updates and improvements to their native events objects since then, but we switched to Calendar Anything back then because we couldn't do very basic things that we wanted to do, like show Google calendars to everybody and things like that, which you can do now in Salesforce natively. But anyway, if you have a little bit of budget, you might consider looking at Calendar Anything, because it has a slew of really robust features. Now, are they the features that you need to do what you do? Unsure, but there's a lot of stuff there. It touts native Zoom integration. It touts Outlook integration. I can say that they are an active company. There's regular updates to their app. They're going to be at Dreamforce with a booth. Like they Silverline is making stuff. They continue to release updates for this. So
okay.
Yeah, because where I was going with that is, you got to remember, Salesforce for Outlook, even if it were still fully supported, is free. Like, you get what you pay for. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but I mean, anything free is going to be limited. It was meant to be like an intro to doing the thing, kind of a tool. And then Salesforce didn't realize that it was going to get pretty wide adoption for some pretty broad things. And they kind of stopped and like, well, nope, we only do this much. And so then that's why products like Calendar or anything have been able to pop up that are paid, but it's an investment. It's not a cost. It's an investment because you and your organization and your sales reps and everybody will see ROI on the back end of it probably pretty quickly. I bet, Jack, you can attest to.
Yeah, I mean, the calendar features, like just viewing the calendar is exceptional. Full text search through everything. That's lightning. I mean, when I use the term lightning, I don't mean Salesforce lightning. I mean, it is really fast.
Okay.
It returns lots of results, filtered calendars. So you want to only show people certain things. You can do that. You can let your users build their own calendars if you want and have as much admin access to the calendar, anything. I mean, it's a really nice product. As Dale said, you do get what you pay for. And that one is one that I am a big supporter of.
And
Could we just for a second? Sorry, go ahead, Dale.
Well, you may be going to, are you talking about your comment you just put in chat?
Well, I just want to make sure that, right, we're suggesting that they buy an app doesn't solve the problem. So I was going to say, like, this, I think this is a great conversation, but for a minute, let's circle back to like, well, it sounds like just in general, there's a concern, and Mike even commented too, like maybe there's an event issue, but also like, is an event the right place to track your notes? So I mean, go ahead, Dale.
And so that's what I was going to get into is we have to remember the origin of the activity object, which is tasks and events. Like it's had a very unique place in life in Salesforce. It was meant to be a polymorphic child of literally anything you say you want it to be, which is great because it can be nice and broad, but it's definitely not tall. And so with events, like the winner of events is the date time piece. You can time box when something happened. Is it a great place to track notes? No, not at all. It's like anything activity, out of the box activity is a risk reward situation.
Because I believe, I mean, like let's talk about the risk there. If you're syncing events, if the event gets updated, it's going to overwrite anything that's been added to the event, which means you might lose stuff that's added to comments, whether it's good or not. So like, I still feel like maybe there's a different problem, and maybe like to your point of they won't add info, like maybe give them a better way to add the customer notes and let the event just do its event thing. Right. I'm thinking like, if you were working in Outlook, you wouldn't ask them to edit the event that came from your Zoom client and add the commentary into the event in the Outlook calendar. You'd probably have a note or a task or a post-it note or a log file or something. So maybe there's like multiple ways to attack this.
Yeah. I think that, again, I'm not terribly concerned if the salespeople are entering meeting agenda and meeting outcome. It would be a nice thing if they just put in a couple of words why they're visiting and that kind of thing. But hopefully that information will be either added on notes or log a note or, log a call or things like that. My major issue is what management is trying to do here, which is, I know, very heavy-handed, but they just want to make sure that our salespeople are getting out there and making conference call meetings, video meetings, face-to-face meetings, that kind of thing. So just, getting out of the house and going out there and doing it. And like I said before, I was somewhat shocked to find out that a lot of our customers are sending the link to the salesperson to invite them into their projects and things like that. I just need to know how to provide on the report some information of how it was related and what project they were working on or which was a customer.
So something that you might consider, and I hate the idea of duplicate data, but if the customer generated events are not reportable, have your salespeople create an event that mirrors that, because if it's to populate a report and you can't grab it the way it is, I mean, it's a quick, easy way to do it, and it kind of makes me like feel icky, but I'm there and I don't know.
That was
Go ahead.
There's a couple of different things here that
Mhm.
stick out to me. You said that once they're like, if I create an event in my own Outlook and then I click a magical button and now that event is in Salesforce, can I edit that event in your org today?
No. I
Okay,
mean,
so
if
so
I'm
that-
not the owner of the event, if I'm the one, I'm not the organizer, no.
so again, so if I'm in my Outlook and I
Mhm.
create an event and then I sync it to Salesforce, I created the meeting invite. Am I the owner
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Now, if you invited me to a meeting and I
Mhm.
accept and I sync that, am I the owner of the event?
No, because you're not the organizer.
Who's the owner of the event?
The organizer, the person
And
who sent you the
what
invite.
happens when Jimmy Bob at ABC Company sends an invite to somebody in your org and they then sync it? Who owns that?
It still is owned by the person who organized the event.
But what
Jimmy
user?
Bob of the other company?
Well,
This is what I'm
they
getting
are,
at.
yeah, that's the thing. When it comes over, the person who received the invite is still showing as an assignee or invite, I should say. But because they are not considered the owner of the organizer, I should say, of the event, even though it's synced over, they can't just do simple things like go into the fields and add or make
But
the
wouldn't the
adjustments.
organizer be connected to the contact, the account? Like,
So I'm going to throw out an example as a consultant that maybe kind of applies here.
Okay.
Most of my clients that I work with make me work on their email platform. So I have dale.ziegler@ibm.com as an employee. Well, but then I also have dale.ziegler@clientname.com that I have to actually organize everything out of, including that IBM's a WebEx company, but my client right now is a Teams company. In order to get meetings scheduled on Teams with my clients, I have to do everything from my @client name box, which, yeah, hi, Dale Ziegler, same guy, but my Salesforce record would nothing about Salesforce would know that. I'm treated as two different people. And so that's where, like, I think you definitely can't lose sight of your people or your sales reps are being invited by clients or whoever, because that's just the nature of how this business is going. So it's an accommodation for the process of how it all come together.
Yes, that's the thing. And I understand sometimes it is all about the security that our clients are requesting. And I just, trying to make sure that our salespeople get the credit as credit is due for every meeting that they have.
Do you sync all events or do you only sync some of them?
All events.
Do you use Einstein Activity Capture? I got
Yes,
back
I
on.
do.
So
are you in the unified reporting pilot?
That's a good question. I'm not. I don't know.
Probably no then.
Yeah, probably not.
What were you going to say, Dale?
I think we got to, I mean, honestly, I think we need to stop targeting solutions just yet, because either you're going to run into the wall that you already have with Salesforce for Outlook, or we're going to build something so big and robust and custom, or we're going to be throwing dollars in the wrong place, like Einstein, either in technical debt or actual functional debt. Again, consultant hat here. Sometimes you got to just elicit the feedback of sales. I know it sucks that you're stuck in the middle having to relay this message of you got to report. That's the nature of the economy right now. Like, how many companies are laying people off? Management needs to know that they are investing in the incomes of sales reps, that they're going to see that revenue come back. It just is. I think everybody on this call has been in the chair that you've been in right now, where we have to deliver the bad news of, look, just log your bleeping bleep. It happens, but I think there's definitely a piece that this is where admins go totally unappreciated. You're going to have to, I think you'll have to meet sales where they are and just actually sit down with them, whether it's actually meetings or if it's a user feedback survey or whatever, and just say, look, what are the pain points of the process? Let's talk there. Let's gather some requirements, because your ultimate solution might not actually be too far off of what you have today, but sales hasn't been given the insight. All they've been told is, you got to do this. And I'm not saying that you've done that.
Yeah.
Sales just has been told you have to log your calls, and they haven't really been given the microphone to say, I would love to, but I can't because of ABC, to give real objective reasons as to why. And I think once you capture those objective reasons, like the actual pain points, that's going to get you to your solution. I hate to say it, but you're not at solution time yet.
Yeah, I think that for my org especially, management asks for something to happen, and it's my job to tell salespeople, yeah, the management wants you to do this. The problem is that they're always looking for the very easiest, simplest way of doing it. To hear people basically bitch about 2 clicks of a keyboard is amazing. Oh, I have to click there, that kind of thing. But my problem really is the fact that if they are receiving invitations, and like I said, they should get credit for those as meetings, regardless of who invited them, they should be able to just simply go in there and relate that meeting to their opportunity or their account, and they're just not able to do that right now. Like I mentioned before, I did reach out on the Trailblazer community, and I got somebody responded like, oh, you need to use Salesforce CLI to generate a new LWC, and there's all this coding.
We're getting into all these, let's tack this onto this and this onto this and this onto this. And okay, we get a new release where Salesforce modifies some of its core functionality, and your leaning tower of pizza just fell right on its side because we decided to change the concrete of the foundation.
Yeah, if you're not going to change the build at all, and you need a simple solution, have them duplicate the event as the owner, populate all the information, and then it'll sync over properly. Because you said that part works. That just means they have 2 events. But one of them is going to be orphaned and pointless. So,
but is it always going to be pointless when it's orphaned?
Oh, I don't know. But we're looking for easy no build. Easy no build is you go do it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's the way that I've been doing too much testing on this, and that just seems that they have done 2 activities that are identical in their Salesforce calendar, which isn't a terrible thing because this group doesn't even know where the Salesforce calendar is. They still are just pretty much constantly working out of Outlook. So I do appreciate everyone's feedback, and I definitely taken everything that people have said here and really took some notes and that kind of thing, so I'll look into it. I think that also I will be looking into that, the app for the calendar, what was it called, calendar, anything. Yeah, I'll be looking into that as well. So thank you for everybody's help.
Rochelle, I put a link to a similar question that came up with that same error message, and I don't know if their solution is workable, but you might want to go down that rabbit hole also.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Joy.
I don't know if it's going to work or not, but you read through it and see if you think it applies. But it was that error message that, the organizer error message was the same. So
thank you. I see it here, and I will definitely be looking into that. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, John, are you ready? Is this the same John that was asking about data?
Yeah, I had a question a couple months ago. I don't know, for some reason I seem to bring the really complex ones in. So basically, we use IICS, which is an informatic process or tool, just an independent website that maps between ACE's SQL staging tables to Salesforce. So it will allow you to map the data to go either way. We've been running these 50 jobs, daily jobs, for, I don't know, 7 years. And on August 20th, the jobs drastically increased. So that day was crazy long, where ones were taking 12 hours to run. That one specific day was the only really crazy day. But then everything after that, so the 21st on until now, everything doubled in the duration that it took to run prior to that date. We've done some research as far as like what has changed. The only thing that we can really point to is hyperfocus migration.
Hyperforce.
I'm sorry, yeah, hyperforce.
Just want to make sure we don't lose. Everybody's like, "What's hyperfocus? Oh my god!"
Yeah, sorry, my mistake.
That's okay.
Yes.
It's me not paying attention. That's hyper focus.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but we've been, trying to do our due diligence to say, what in the process has actually been affected, or how can we point to a specific thing. And unfortunately, we don't have logs prior to the 20th because Salesforce only keeps 7-day logs. By the time we noticed that there was a duration change, those were gone. And then IICS, it has a similar thing of 10 days. So we can't go back and say, okay, what are the logs? But we do have a pretty detailed listing of all the jobs, their start time, their end time, and we can specifically point to, the average times per individual job versus what it is now. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if the group has any suggestions on where we can go to try and point what the actual problem is.
John, really quick, are all of the data sources in the cloud, or are you coming on-prem for some of it?
So all of ACE's SQL tables are on-prem.
Okay.
Then, Salesforce is in the cloud.
And the Hyperforce migration, who handled the conversion?
I'm not sure what you're asking. I
Well,
thought
there was work and checks that needed to be done in your org when you converted to Hyperforce.
Then I'm guessing we didn't. It was just forced on us, I think.
It was, but there was prep work. So that would be my first two recommendations is I would make sure that anything that's coming external to internal isn't being delayed by a firewall or an IP range allocate, like something that is keeping now the Hyperforce URL from fighting its way through to on-prem and back. So check that. And then in the org itself, there's a Hyperforce migration assistant. It might be gone now if you've already converted, but it'll walk through all the things that need to be verified. You might have a configuration issue because of the Hyperforce conversion.
Okay.
We had to do a ton of work to get one of our orgs converted over because of a lot of our on-prem integrations, but I can't say that it's I can't say it's the same problem because we have totally different tooling and different rules, and we have Zscaler and all kinds of other stuff that was in the way. But that would be my first start to at least like a direction. I don't know if that's going to solve the problem.
That's all we're looking for is a direction to look. We've had a ticket with Salesforce support open for about 2 weeks, been back and forth. They've been pointing to IICS. We're going to open a ticket with them just to verify, but nothing's changed on their end. So I'm just going to try and reach out to them to see if they have anything to point, to clarify what they have on their end.
Really quick, just because I've got it up here. This is what I'm talking about in your org, in the Hyperforce Assistant. If that's still showing in your org, that's going to walk through all of the setup and checks and like everything that had needed. Oh, I'm not done sharing. It's still just blank. Sorry. That helps. Now you're actually seeing a picture. There was a bunch of stuff that could be jumped through to verify, and it's fully documented, but I'm betting that's where one of the problems is there's something about your URL resolution or something that is causing a delay.
Okay, great.
But it's a guess. There's no confidence there. It's just a guess.
Yep, it's just something else to look into.
Okay.
Great.
Let's see what else. Do you have anything in Informatica? It's been a million years since I used Informatica, but is there a way for you to trace the path from your, because that's an orchestrator as well as doing transformation and loading, right?
So the IICS portion is separate from like actual Informatica.
Okay.
It's almost like a limited. So I compare it to IICS is like Notepad, whereas Informatica is like Word.
Sure. Okay.
So it's just limited on what we have, and we have one of the least capabilities that we could license for that. So
I just wondering if there's any sort of like, is there a source tracker for your path, or is there any sort of monitoring that you could turn on and just send a single record end to end and watch your hops? You might be able to see it. I know.
Yeah, I can make modifications to the selection so that it would only pick one row. Also, we had Will is on this call as well. He's our admin for Salesforce. We worked together and we put verbose logging into IICS, and so we were looking at that as well.
Sure. Yep. There's a lot of tools out there just from an enterprise level that also might be able to help try to track some of that traffic and see where you're getting hiccups. Example being, about a month ago, we had a slowdown and it looked like it was on the Salesforce side, and it turned out that something on the infrastructure was making an extra hop to get across the United States. And that second hop was actually our configuration, but not on Salesforce. Made it look like Salesforce was slow. So I'm just wondering if you got some tooling there could track a full path.
I'll reach out to our technical engineering team to see if there's a way that they can help as well.
Cool.
Yeah, the one thing we saw that the query that's run by IICS takes 16 seconds, and then the transformation, so from the point that it logs in to Salesforce to the end, could take 8 hours, which it took 4 hours before.
Sure.
So it just depends upon the job, but some are going from 2 minutes to 4 minutes, 10 minutes to 20 minutes, and just variation, just depending upon what it's actually doing.
And then last question, and then I'll let someone else speak about it. What's your level of confidence that it's not a data scale issue? And what I mean by that is like you didn't accidentally replicate all of your accounts or something weird, right?
No, we're looking at so when we look at the list of the jobs and the times, we can see the number of records that are being transferred or manipulated, and they're the same.
Yeah, cool.
Or increase a couple. Reasonable amount, I should say.
All right. Never a bad question to ask. I always hope
definitely.
that it's not a surprise, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it would make sense if it took twice as long and you had twice as much data.
Yeah, or even like a weird flow that's adding a level of abstraction to the full process, right? Like it's an unrelated trigger is slowing down the full record processing. Like there's been no major changes to your infrastructure that would be aligning with the same date.
I don't think so. The thing that we point to is the fact that the jobs affect different objects across the instance, and it's not instances or objects that we definitely didn't change increased.
Cool. Or not cool, but it's good to know that that's marked off the list. So all right. I mean, I think your Hyperforce date is just too coincidental to not blow that off. I think that's where I would really spend my time to start.
Yeah. And we didn't want to, we kind of right off the bat, we're like, yeah, that's it. But I wanted to talk to this group about what other things may have happened outside of that.
Yep.
Well, thank you for listening. I know my questions are usually a little more thorough.
I don't know if you saw the post. Jack did mention that just verify your APIs, like you don't have an API that's gone out of date or out of sync in some way. I mean,
So
hopefully it's not 30.
we definitely have an old API. It's within the range, so it's 31.
Ooh, yikes.
But yeah.
Aren't we coming up close to retiring 30?
Yeah, they extended it to
One over the line.
5, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd keep 31 on your very close radar.
Oh, definitely. We've cleared everything underneath that.
Gotcha.
This was actually on our radar to update, but we didn't change the API. So, I mean, it was still performing reasonable prior to the 20th.
Yep. I think you're probably good. But it's always to what we kept saying, good to not mark that off the list. Like, I know the API is good, right? So you're going through the motions. So,
yep.
Hi.
All right.
I wanted to make sure that our checklist, what we were going through, matched what you guys are thinking.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a hard
cut you off.
stop. Yep, we've got a hard stop today. So thanks, everybody. Andrew, we'll look for your link that you put in the chat. Everybody have a great time. Anyone at Dreamforce, I'll be happy to see you and wave from across the room if I can't get to you. But have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.